first thing I thought we'd do is just kind of set the context and for business aviation at least. And we're investors at DiamondStream, and so thinking about this as an investment and looking at the various deals, you have to put things into the proper industry context, where you have an industry in business aviation that's really not growing, and it really hasn't grown very much at all for quite some time. And there aren't very many pockets of profitability out there. You have the brokers, and you have thousands of operators who are all complaining that they're not making money. You have flight shaming that's going on, a term that didn't exist prior to this year, for people who are flying these obnoxious, expensive assets that are polluting the environment at rates that people are just beginning to notice now. And so someone else had predicted that the issue of pollution is not likely to go away, and we would agree with that. They're also noisy, and so in San Carlos, which Bonnie mentioned, some of the people living around there aren't too keen on having many more or thousands of landings there. And so there are a number of challenges, and you've got pilots who are hard to find and harder to find and all that. So those are some of the negatives. But there are a number of positives, though, that encourage people like me to continue to look at the space, and Dean as well, who was on the past panel. And so some of those are that the industry actually is pretty large. We estimate that the charter industry worldwide is about $18.5 billion, and that's an estimate that took a while to try to build up. And there are a number of inefficiencies that various people on this panel have been trying to address over the past few years for each of them. In terms of the average charter plane flies about an hour a day, 38% are flying deadheading, 20% of the costs are in sales and distribution, and on. There are these various inefficiencies that technology is trying to address right now. And so there are some encouraging areas, because if you can find a way to eliminate some of the efficiencies, you'll be able to bring down the cost. And you may recall yesterday I asked the question to Kenny Dichter and to one of the other panels about what's it going to take for the industry to grow. And I think that the technologies that the panel is working on here will be very instrumental in helping. But fundamentally, to dramatically increase the size of the industry, you're going to have to reduce the cost. And some of the technologies that they're working on, I think, will help to drive the cost down, which will be extremely helpful to grow the industry. And then some of the technologies that we've been discussing will also help in terms of the hybrid electric aircraft, or the powering of aircraft using hybrid electric propulsion, which we are big believers in, but not in the next 2 or 3 years. It's more the mid-2020s. So with that, why don't I go down the line here and have you introduce yourselves and tell us a bit about what you're doing and how you're trying to update business aviation.
Absolutely. My name is Paolo Malicki. I'm the CEO of Flapper. We are Brazil's first on-demand private aviation company. We have scheduled flights between Sao Paulo and Rio de Janeiro, as well as a couple of other destinations, and also offer charter on demand across Brazil and soon also Latin America. Brazil is a mobile-first country and society, so around 80% of our sales are mobile-based. Our app currently counts 130,000 downloads and around 10,000 paid clients. We've been on the market since 2016.
And how much bigger are you than your next largest competitor, do you think?
We don't have direct competitors. We used to have around 7 companies in Brazil trying to enter this market. Today, we're alone on the market. But we have what I call partners, or a company which operates in a similar sector called VUM, Airbus owned. This is mostly aerial mobility. So we complement each other's footprints. And I guess we are on a similar level, right? They're doing quite well, so very similar in terms of volume, I would guess.
Very good.
Paolo Sommariva, I'm the founder of Flex. It's a software company, now 10 years old. We built the only comprehensive flight management and, in general, operations management tool for business aviation. We span from brokering and selling charter flights, dispatch, pre, post-flight, crew control, and everything else that goes along with managing flight operations. We digitize, automate, and optimize aviation. That's our motto. So over the past 10 years, we digitized a lot of data, a lot of information that we transformed into data. And so that's taking it out of Excel sheets, of Post-it notes, and lots of other non-data repositories. And then with that, we do a lot of if this, then that kind of automation within the platform so that we reduce the basic decision-making that operators need to do all day. And then the next step is optimization, and that's taking KPIs and making sophisticated decisions. And the goal is to remove from all the human work that's involved in making planes fly safely and organize all the services around that, and take out the whole level of basic work, basic decisions, copy-paste that happens. And one big part of it is APIs. So they told me, ask a question here. How many people here know what an API is, or what it stands for? Wow, fantastic. So I don't need to translate the acronym, right? But for those that don't, it's a connector. It's between two computers. You install a piece of code that's going to make the two computers talk to each other very simply. And so we have in our platform over 50 that are running to integrate inside the platform services like buying catering, buying rides on limousines, creating flight plans, and the like. So yeah, it's all about automation.
Thank you. Hi, David Fox, CEO of Stellar Labs. We're a digital marketplace, been around for about 5 years, and we're in the process of enabling the industry, operators, brokers, corporate flight departments, the ability to transact on one platform, an independent platform, I might add. We do automated quoting, scheduling, business intelligence. We have a marketplace that ties it all together where operators can now get access to see inventory in their partners' scheduling systems. They can book that, they can clear it, they can transact together. You don't have to pick up a phone and look for off-fleet lift. You can now work with your partners online to do that. It's an end-to-end platform that enables everyone to transact in one place. Something that we've been working on for quite some time, and we're really excited that we're at the forefront of bringing all these different pieces of the industry together, really trying to deliver a lot more transparency, visibility, and effective ways of transacting together on a single platform. We also like APIs. We're building an ecosystem around the platform as well, plugging into as many ancillary applications as possible to better the overall experience for operators and the charter brokers and corporate flight departments that are out there as well. So it's a big platform. We are partnered with Collins and the FOSS platform, and we're taking that into the cloud to the next level. And we've been working really hard at that, and we're excited about our future prospects and working with a lot of the large operators that are out there in the industry today.
Hi, it's Shaan, Bhanji here. We are FlyEasy Software. We're a Canadian company. The best way to describe it is we are software as a subscription service, so if you're familiar with the term SaaS. And basically we're a subscription platform for charter operators and charter brokers. So clients are, from the operator side, we have clients like FlyEasy, JetEdge, Pinnacle Aviation, Mountain Aviation, for example. And then on the charter broker side, we work with people like Apollo Jets, Magellan Jets, and so on. And essentially what we do is our platform streamlines a lot of the charter sales process for charter sales teams.
Excellent. So one of the questions that Alistair was most interested in finding the answer to from you all is, where are the easy wins in this industry? To David.
Let me get a microphone here. No, I think this one works. What are the easy wins?
Yeah. Where are the easy wins? Yeah.
Where are the easy? I don't think there are any easy wins in this industry. There's a lot of hard work. It's very complex. If it was easy, everybody would do it. And I think this industry has seen a lot of companies come and go with a lot of funding coming in, which I think there will be a lot more of. But there are no easy wins. This is, it's a grind. It's very complex. There's a lot of moving parts that have to be coordinated together to get someone on an airplane and get that airplane flying. And trying to automate that process is a non-trivial project. Otherwise, I think it would have been done a long time ago. I said last year at the same conference that this is the last industry that has yet to be digitized. That still remains true. I think there are a lot of companies out there that are talking about marketplaces. Talking about transforming it. We're certainly speaking that language, but until today, it really hasn't been done yet, and that's still something that I think is going to be a work in progress. But there are no easy wins. This is hard work. It's complicated. It's going to take a lot of funding to make that happen.
Do any of you disagree with that? So no easy wins. Sorry, Alistair. The next question is that besides the company you represent, are there any other companies that you've seen out there that you think are likely to be great successes?
Well, I'm pretty bullish on new commercial models, so companies such as Wheels Up. In Europe, we have a couple of digital marketplaces such as FlyVictor or Private Fly. Here in the US as well, great case studies such as Plate. So I think that's the subsector that I would bet on. They redefine private aviation. They're digital by nature or natively, right? And I think that the future lies in new models, essentially.
Other views? Paolo?
Yeah, I'm very bullish about one of our competitors that was recently acquired, I think, as of yesterday, by Kenny and Wheels Up. Right.
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, I think it depends on what your definition of a big success is. I mean, I think in our world we're thinking in terms of billions of dollars. I'd argue that Wheels Up getting a $1 billion valuation is a big success. I think VistaJet getting a $1 billion valuation or multi-billion dollar valuation is a big success. I think there are more to come. I think those are few and far between. If you look at the industry today, Avionics getting acquired is, I think that's a great place for them to be. They've been out in the business for 12 years building out that company. Which is a long, hard-fought battle to get there. And it depends on what your scale of a big success is. I think it's a win. I wouldn't consider that to be a huge success, but it's a good exit. And I think there are more exits on the way. I think there'll be more consolidation in the industry. I think there'll be several other marketplace-type plays that come into the industry. Those will consolidate. Start to see some bigger and bigger companies continue to go after that. But I would say a big success to me is something that's in that multi-billion-dollar category. And those are, I'd say, infrequent in this industry so far, with the exception of a rare few.
Any picks?
Well, we've already got two with VistaJet and Wheels Up. See if they can maintain that and continue to grow it.
Shaan?
Yeah, I think I share a bit of a different opinion. I think this industry is very relationship-based. So anybody who can go out there and establish a good relationship and a trusting relationship with an operator, same goes for a charter broker. I think those are the people that are going to be successful. And it's not, probably less top-line focused and a little bit more bottom-line focused. We like EBITDA, and that's what the name of the game is, really.
Can you put up the first Slido question, please? So the next question I had is, for the industry to grow faster and sustainably, what's needed in your view?
I can take a crack at that. For it to be more sustainable and more accessible, I think you have to have transparency. I think you also have to have an ease of facilitation of being able to facilitate the transactions. And if you can facilitate something, we say this a lot, if you can make something easier to buy, people will buy more of it. And you facilitate the transaction between operators, brokers, corporate flight departments. I mean, that's the direction that we're headed in. If you can do that, I think that will, that's going to have an impact, and that'll transform the industry and make it, make it a little bit more transparent and accessible. That'll, eventually grow it.
Other views? Paul, Paolo, Shaan? Just interested in trying to figure out how the industry, what's going to lead the industry to grow faster than it is today, because it's relatively flatlined today.
Well, there's a big question about efficiency across the value chain, right? And again, what we're trying to do is to reduce all the inefficiencies in the sales side, right? Which I think everybody in different ways or at different stages is working on here. And so it's removing all this communication, human communication between people over the phone and over emails that takes time. We have built a pricing engine that considers over 50 data points, and for the vast majority of flights can actually give you in less than a millisecond a fully formed price, right? Now this goes against what Shaan was just saying about trusted relationships, but I think that we can evolve the industry towards a trusted relationship to a piece of software that reliably and repeatedly gives you a good price every time, right? For a certain part of the market, not everything.
So Paul, I think when we had talked before, that one of the things you had mentioned might be the changing economic models in selling seats and other types of innovations. Do you think that's going to help grow the industry or not? Or do you think it's just going to be a minor aspect of it?
Well, I think first of all, the US is a little bit of a different market because even if you look at the number of millionaires and the number of private jet owners, it's way above any other country, right? So we can assume that there's still a lot of market in emerging side of the world, let's put it that way, right? You have Brazil, you have Mexico, respectively number 2 and number 3 markets for private aviation right now. You have Asia, which is largely underserved, and yeah, this is gonna, that's gonna happen. But still within the existing footprint, you have new commercial models, and I think that the technology and public, I would say, knowledge or understanding of these models is still very low. In Brazil, we have lots of challenges related to perception of private aviation as being very unsecure. That's because out of 10 flights, charter flights, 7 are clandestine flights. So for me, for my second business model being a marketplace, it is very, very challenging. So my main challenge right now is to convince the consumer that this is safe. We have operators which have been on the market for 20 years and have never had an accident. These are the ones that we use for our shared flights. And that's one type of a challenge. Now, for people to accept flying private, I would call it, it's sort of like a mathematical exercise. It's not a question of yes or no. The answer is yes. It makes sense. There are models. There are many companies in the world which currently do it successfully. The thing is that you need to understand about what distance is ideal for this type of flights, what type of aircraft, what type of events, right? Because sometimes it's about a common passion or hobby, sometimes about commuting. And there's still a lot of optimization to be done. Again, we are pretty bullish on it. We see in Brazil the potential to develop at least 10 very, very successful routes. But then, for example, in Paraguay, we don't see a market for it, or in Bolivia, or in other Latin countries. So I think that there's still quite a lot to be done.
Shaan, do you have any views on this?
I don't. None of our operators, at least the ones that we work with on our platform, doesn't do seat sharing or anything like that. For us, it's just, there's an hourly rate on the aircraft, you can charter it out, and it is what it is, right? We would have to put in a lot of work to figure out what the seat configuration and interior configuration of every aircraft would be. Even if you do have the number of seats, which we do, you could be on a Global 6000 with, sitting, bumping knees with someone. It's just, I don't think it's flying private. It takes the private out of flying private. But
Okay.
So we don't really play with that. But there's people that are doing it, and I think it's a pretty complex thing to be dealing with, right? It's like you don't want to run into situations where you have like an Indian guy sitting next to a Pakistani guy, and then fight breaks out or something like that. There's a lot of considerations to think about. But I think the goal and the rational reason why we're doing it and people are playing with the model is because we're trying to maximize utilization out of the asset. So I understand it, but I don't know if that's the right answer yet.
But the question is always between shared flights for a lower price or lower prices. Everybody wants lower prices. And if you want a lower price, you got to give up something to obtain it, right? And probably shared flights is one big way of going there.
I don't think the shared flights is a huge way. I think it's more of a niche market right now. I think you'll see some increases. I think there've been a bunch of companies that have come and tried to do the ride sharing thing that I think it's proven that there is a market for it, but I think it's small. I think where you're going to see a lot of the growth is, again, transparency between buyers and sellers, making it easier for them to transact. I think as liquidity comes into the marketplaces, you're going to start to see some price erosion, but it's always going to be expensive to fly private. And my reaction to this question is that, the operator consolidation, I think that's going to have a little bit of an impact, but still, you've got to get aircraft on these platforms. You've got to get them readily accessible, so where people can buy them, get access to them, transact on them. You start to do that, then I think you're going to start to see the industry growing faster. You've got to make it more accessible and transparent, easier to buy.
So, go ahead, please.
So I wonder if anybody has the numbers from Uber. I think that their ride sharing with different people in the same car, I don't think it happens very often. And it is expensive for some people, for a lot of people.
I think it does happen often. I think the difference is another panelist pointed out, is that the ride with an Uber shared is 15 minutes as opposed to 2 hours or 3 hours or something. And so they were suspecting that there's a difference culturally in how much time you're willing to spend with someone who you don't know in a...
And less turbulence and no toilets on board.
Yeah, that's true. So I see that the majority, not majority, but 48% of the people think that you really need to bring down the costs. So why haven't the panelists here been able to really affect the cost more than you have? Is it that your technology is just maturing, or do you think you really have had an impact on the cost for the operators and the cost for consumers? And so what more do you need to do for that to happen?
I think that more than operator consolidation or greater transparency between buyers and sellers, that's probably a better connotation, in the sense that it's about the market consolidation, where all the parts, all the moving parts of the market, which are represented by what each of us does, and dozens more out in the market need to talk to each other via APIs. And so it has a lot to do with unification of data. There is no single data repository for airports, for airspaces, for operators. It's completely fragmented, and there is no standard. And so I think the industry needs to have a big effort in that sense, so that all the systems that exist can easily talk to each other without having to translate the data every time. There is a couple of efforts around. One is, I know, is in the UK. It's called Aviation. And I think that the market desperately need that, so that we can all reduce the effort of interfacing all our systems.
Any other points of view?
I think liquidity and accessibility are the two key things, the two key drivers.
Well, let's just highlight that, we as technology platforms, we have very little impact on the costs. I agree with Paolo. I think that we still need to collaborate more with the operators. But if you look at the industry where 40% of the cost of the flight is fuel, what kind of, cost lowering are we talking about, right? You would have to have an electric engine, and that's the future, and I agree. And let's do hope that this is going to come soon, perhaps first to caravan turboprops, eventually to private jets. But it's just really difficult to lower the costs. The costs of pilots are just increasing, So unless the industry takes a giant leap forward, such as with an eVTOL technology or electric engines, then it's going to be really difficult to lower the costs. So there is a little bit of a technology and user interface and connectivity between the user and a platform and the operator, and that's definitely going to help increase the size of the market by, 5, 10, 15%. But sharing economy is definitely also a way, especially with crowdsourcing models, etc. What's interesting is that all of you have an operator software, none of you have a seat selling capacity. And there's still, a lot of companies asking for it for regional flights, and today pretty much, who offers it? Amadeus, Cyber, really, really big players. So there is a niche, a market to explore. I would probably add a couple of other categories, but costs, that's going to take some time.
Okay. Could you put up the second Slido question, please? And are there any other countries out there? I mean, the U.S. is half the world's market for charter aviation, and I know that there should be some bias given that we have 3 people not from the U.S. right here. In terms of, are there other countries out there that are being much more aggressive with regard to innovations or technology innovations in the industry to help drive down costs?
Well, China. But China, I wouldn't say this about private aviation or business aviation sector, since that was the first market where, electric drone or eVTOL was certified. We can definitely assume that, they're giving lots of support. Singapore, which is going to be a launch market for a volocopter. But you see, we're talking about the extreme, right? The electric vehicles. If you look at the US, there's an FAA certification process. They're part of the International Business Aviation Council, of which ANAC in Brazil also is a part of, and Canada, and European Business Aviation Association. All of those institutions pretty much follow similar rules. So I would say within that part of the world, probably not. And then you have Asia, and Asia today is pretty much underserved from business aviation standpoint. So the answer is probably not so, but we do have a couple of exceptions in some, individual subsectors such as drones, etc.
Any other points of view?
I think Europe's an interesting market for us. I think Asia's probably after that, South America, but the dominant market here is North America. So don't spend a ton of time thinking about all the other markets, but we do have a focus given the footprint of the install base that we're working with. It is a global footprint, and European's next on our list.
So I agree with both. I think that maybe 64% of the market, that's the number I have, is US or North America, and 15% is Europe, and they're both mature markets. And then we have Asia, Southeast Asia, China, and those are emerging markets as far as business aviation is concerned. So definitely to look at. We can expect a boom over some point in the next years. But for now, US is the reference market.
Okay. Shaan, do you agree with that?
Yeah, I tend to agree with that.
Very good. I had a slide question put up here because I was curious what people thought regarding the potential profitability of some of the technologies that we heard out there. And I think the majority of people think that cargo drones are, which is music to Dean's in my ear because we invested in a company that we saw here for the first time last year, which is Elroy. So I hope that turns out to be true. So can you put the questions up now, Alistair? But first I want to go to the audience to see if anyone has a question out there before I go to the questions submitted via Slido. All right, I see no hands right now. What is the winning revenue model for the aviation marketplaces? Is the subscription model the right answer? Is anyone on the panel considering a different model?
The SaaS model is the correct answer.
I'm not sure I agree with that. I think it's a blend of, the SaaS model is certainly part of it, but I also think there's a transactional component as well, which is what marketplaces are typically known for. There's multiple ways to create commercial models, and I think you're going to see new ones start to surface that are going to combine the two. And I think that'll take shape fairly soon.
As we saw in these past 2 days, the debate is on. I've had a conversation with a lot of people here on what is the best model. I think there is an acceptance to be had by the market as to which model is best. Surely a sort of fixed cost based on fleet size is not the ideal one, but that's what the industry accepts today. So I think we need to evolve there and find out which is the right proportional model that works for the industry.
If we extend the definition onto charter marketplaces as well, or pay-per-seat, I think that there are multi-tier models. Even if you look at the current, representatives of these sectors in the U.S., such as Wheels Up, eventually, they create different type of models. In the past, this used to be jet cards, because we have different type of consumers. You can have someone who has a high disposable income, flies all the time, and you have someone who wants to use, the service sporadically. So I think, for SaaS, probably SaaS and transactional. Now for a commercial side in the business, or demand side of the business, you can have a mixture of different models.
Okay. I'm not sure if you heard, but Avianis was bought by Wheels Up. And so I'm wondering for each of you how it affects your business.
I'll take that because that, in theory, affects me. directly as it's directly in our market segment. And I can answer very clearly without any doubt, I have no clue.
At least you're honest.
Well, they have not declared what they're going to do after they've been acquired. And so I guess we'll see over the next weeks and months what happens.
I think it's great. Look, Avianis is one of our competitors. Maybe we'll compete with Wheels Up now. We'll see how that plays out, but I think it's further validation of the space that the arms race is on. You're seeing a number of companies that are trying to get their digital footprint established, and I think that only benefits the industry. I think you're seeing a lot more. Back to what this panel is for. Like, is there, does technology have a place? Is the market big enough for it? Will there be more investment? Absolutely. And you're looking at companies like Wheels Up investing in companies like Avianis. I think it only benefits this industry, and it's going to be super interesting to see how this starts to shake out with some of the other marketplaces that are out there. So I'd see it as a benefit, and by the way, I think we can all transact together. I think there's room for several people to play, and I think it's just at its infancy and starting to get interesting now that you're seeing some consolidation.
Oh, thank you for saying that. It's very important. I think that this is also bringing another level of awareness in the market, where technology is going to be the differentiator among the various players in the operators level, at least, in who's going to win and who's not.
How do you set yourself apart from your competitors, as it's already a crowded space is the next question?
For me, that's very clear, and it doesn't really have to do with our business model or the product. We concentrate on one single factor, and that's 100% customer satisfaction.
Yeah, I think scheduling software is by and large part commoditized, and I think the way that we're approaching this industry is to create that digital marketplace that is enabling operators, corporate flight departments, and brokers to transact with each other on a single platform. And that sets us apart. I don't see anyone that has that model today. I don't see anyone that's got that out there in the industry yet. That's what sets us apart from the other scheduling software platforms that are out there.
Shaan, do you have a comment?
Yeah, from the charter platform point of view, I think what's kind of a differentiator for us is we're neutral. I mean, so we're connected to Flex, we're connected to Avianis, we connect to every scheduling system that we can. We're truly a modular platform, so that's why operators that are connecting their inventory to us, there's trust there because we're never going to be involved in the transaction. And with the same token, charter brokers want to come to our platform because we hold the inventory for them to go and source an aircraft. So for us, that's the differentiator, and we're just going to keep doing that.
Okay. One of the next questions that I saw in here regarded, I think was based on a false premise that there are a limited number of operators. The last I heard, at least, that there were about 3,000. Granted, some are much larger than others. But the question was, are there too many platforms out there? So do you anticipate there will be consolidation, that some of the people who are competing on platform business will no longer be around a year or two from now?
Yes. There's definitely going to be consolidation. Yes, it's going to happen. It's inevitable. It's just which ones are going to coalesce together and where's the synergy? It's tough to say.
And how many marketplaces do you think will wind up existing 3 years from now?
Well, yeah. I like to be optimistic, and I like to think that in this industry there's a space for everybody. So I think, there's no reason why we need to have one monopolistic marketplace. There needs to be as many as possible, and operators, the nature of the industry for operators is that it's a very fragmented industry. So, we talk a lot about maybe the 5% operators that have big fleet size of 70 aircraft, but most of our clients that we deal with are small mom and pop shops, that have 2 King Airs or one Lear 35 or 45, and those are people who are really participating in the marketplace. So I think there's a lot of cake for everybody to eat. So, I live in an optimistic world where I think that there's going to be a lot more marketplaces out there.
There's going to be more consolidation, but my opinion is that it's a winner take all, winner take most type of scenario. I think the market is high dollar volume, but small amount of players. I think there will be more consolidation, and other platforms will get folded into other platforms, and eventually there will be one dominant player. And my guess is mostly winner take most type of scenario. I think that's where things will shake out in the next 3 to 5 years. That's my forecast. But in the meantime, there's a lot of other scheduling softwares and other different type of marketplace that are going to get tucked in neatly with each other as they start to get better technology built, and the platforms enable more accessibility and liquidity.
So just so I'm clear, so you predict multiple scheduling platforms, but 1 or 2 or 3 marketplaces?
Something like that. Yep.
Well, I tend to be as idealistic as Shaan, but realistically, I agree with David. And I think that the form that's going to take is that there's different initiatives to form an ecosystem where you have the back-end management, the front-end, the marketplace, and all the different tools attached together to provide a one-stop shop for all the market players. And this one-stop shop needs to have one main characteristic for it to work and to be the choice of excellence from the majority of the market, and that's openness and independence. So if anyone manages to build an ecosystem by aggregating a number of companies like ours and put them together in a way that they work seamlessly, offering a one-stop shop service, and that this service is not polluted by an internal offer of some kind but remains perfectly pure and open, I think that is what the winner is going to look like.
Last word, Paul?
Well, perhaps, I don't know. The question is pretty much about the marketplaces. I think that they have their own problems. In my case, I would say that there is a space for another player, but it's just that the entry barriers are really high. My current market is 300,000 general aviation users in Brazil. If you look at the mix of disposable income and the propensity to fly and some other structural factors, that's 2.2 million people in Brazil that have, again, propensity to fly private. So I think that, the market is huge. It's untapped. Again, there is a space for new models. We are proving it. And that's what we're going to be sticking to in the coming years.
Very good. Thank you, Paul, Paolo, David, and Shaan. Appreciate your time listening.